Hello everyone, my name is Alicia Jackson, licensed professional counselor, and welcome to my channel. Today we are reviewing Married at First Sight, Season 15, Episode 13, The Ugly Truth. Here at this channel, we do a quick therapist review of these couples, learning what's going on underneath all the conflict that we're seeing. How can we learn from what they are showing us through conflict and communication? What's happening here? What's really happening here? This is how we learn and hopefully can really even learn from it to apply to even our own lives and how our conflicts happen in our relationships, in communication, all of that great stuff. So I want to keep it quick, but there are so many things that happened in this episode. I don't know. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but I'm going to try to keep it as short as possible. If you are returning, welcome back and like the video, and please subscribe to the channel, and please comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you are seeing with these couples, as oh my goodness, this episode, there was so much happening. Let's get into it. First, we have Morgan and Binh. Morgan and Binh meet with Dr. Pepper, and Binh is stating that he feels really nervous about this meeting because he doesn't want his marriage to fail. He's still very concerned about his approval from his parents. He said that he knows that his mother will love him no matter what, but his father is pretty hard on him, and he doesn't know how he's going to take this news. And this is heartbreaking to hear. It's heartbreaking to hear because Binh is focused. Binh is focused on pleasing his dad. That's really what this is about. We see even more of this as the decision unfolds. Both of them decide to get a divorce, and for different reasons. Morgan stated that she never felt like Binh initiated an apology, that it was always prompted. And maybe she's feeling that way because it was on camera and she was wanting something off camera. I'm going to give her a little grace in that area. And at the same time, from my view, Binh has been very remorseful, and even you could see he was starting to wake up a little bit. He did a little head tilt when she said that, like, really? I've never apologized to you? And he stated that, hey, if she doesn't forgive me, this is going to be also detrimental to her mental health. And I know there's a lot of buzz about whether forgiveness is needed for healing. I feel that forgiveness can definitely be powerful. And at the same time, what will help Morgan to heal from these spaces in her life, the spaces where she feels like she needs to prove herself? You saw she pull up her license and show the world that she's a nurse. Like, there's something there. There's something there. There's something about trust. These two big things where she couldn't trust the people in her life. And also she felt like she had to prove herself. And so these are old wounds for her. And this is where she needs to do some inner work. Do some real inner work to take care of little Morgan, because how she's showing up, but she has these protectors. She's got these protectors that she wants to fight. She wants to appear strong. And we know that true strength is vulnerability. True strength is being able to be that softer side of herself, to let people in, to be able to trust other people and also trust yourself. And so Morgan's got some work to do. We know Ben's got some work to do. I'm glad that this relationship is over, and I hope that Morgan will be able to see herself more clearly after watching herself. That's what I'm hoping, because unfortunately the experts really didn't hold her accountable. Really didn't even hold her accountable for her initial fib of saying, oh, well, yes, I do have a bachelor's, but actually, no, I don't, because I didn't pass one class. I'm still in school, but I am a nurse. And that was the initial confusion. And that's what caused like all these ripple effects. And so I don't see where Morgan was really held accountable for her actions and her treatment of Binh, and not giving grace. And that's something for her to really get curious about, to see, what is it? What is it about this part of me that wants to make people pay? What is it about this part of me that makes people have to apologize over and over again because I don't trust their apology? It has to be a certain way in order for me to know, for me to feel that they're sorry. this is less about Binh apology and more about how she feels about what he's saying. And that's two different things. That's two different things. But I wish them both the best. It was really even heartbreaking to hear Binh talk about, okay, I'm the first person in my family to get a divorce, and I'm also the only one who's not a doctor. There's so much, unfortunately, what happens in impoverished and poverty places is that there's this pressure. There's this pressure to succeed. And oftentimes that leads to fear-based parenting. Fear-based parenting, where you have to be grateful, you have to be pushed to survive. We see this in a lot of families of color. And so that leads to an invalidating environment for a child. It really does. It makes them feel like their feelings don't matter, like they don't have space to express their feelings, and that they have to jump through hoops in order to prove their worth. Because the impact of that is that they're not enough. The intent is the parents trying to push them so that they'll be able to succeed and be able to have more so they don't have to struggle. And unfortunately, it's very, very common because of this world that we live in. Next, we have Stacia and Nate. Stacia and Nate meet with Pastor Cal, and Nate asked Pastor Cal if he was a freak. What in the world? And Pastor Cal definitely deflected that question and brought it back to them, saying, you guys have come a long way. You've consummated your marriage and you're exploring your freedom in your marriage. And at the same time, where are we on the L word? And so we learned that Stacia has opened up. She said the L word. Nate is still pretty reserved with it. Pastor Cal asked him, so hey, have you felt yourself wanting to say it but didn't say it? And Nate said, yeah, a few times. And so Pastor Cal digs in a little bit about why is that? And Nate is saying hey, we're doing great. I admire her. I'm moving towards it. But I just, there's a lot of weight with that word. I don't want to get hurt. And I hear him that, it's a scary thing. Love is a scary thing. Even though we all want love, it is still scary. And Pastor Cal asked a question. I have to admit that it did annoy a part of me, because he stated, well, is there any history regarding that? And I'm saying, Pastor Cal, don't we know that this young man only met his mother one time when he was 12 years old? We do also know that his father got divorced, and his stepmother doesn't appear to be in his life anymore. So this is the breeding ground for trust issues, and specifically with women in his life. And if he hasn't had a committed relationship, which we know, that come on, Pastor Cal, get with it. And he also asked Stacia, well, you also have issues in the area of trust. She said, yeah, I do. He said, well, you haven't cheated. And maybe the guess this was an assumption that Pastor Cal made, that she hasn't cheated, and she did. And I said, oh no, this is going to set us back. This is going to set us back because this is a pressure cooker. This marriage is a pressure cooker situation. And in pressure cookers, here's the analogy, right? You put everything in there, only what's needed to make the dish, and you close it and you let it heat up, and voila, the dish happens. And it's secured. It's like locked. You only put the ingredients. Communication, constant communication and connection and trust building to build that relationship in order for it to flourish. In other cooking situations, you can open the pot and anytime you need and put extra stuff. You want to get fancy with it, you can do that. But when you do that, sometimes that could cause the dish to go off, go offline, and things to maybe even taste bad. You may have to redo some things because it's not in a pressure cooker. It's not safe, right? This is a pressure cooker situation, and adding extra stuff, even though, yes, he needs to know about her. He needs to know about her experiences. And this happened 10 years ago, and Stacia stated, I'm not that person anymore. And at the same time, what Nate said to her cousin and her friend is true. I only know Stacia for 5 weeks. That's all I know. I don't know her as a person. I don't know her character. I only know this chapter of her. And so adding new information to a person that you've only known for 5 weeks, that can cause question. And Nate is already a person that is slow to trust. He has parts of him that are slow to trust. He even talks about this relationship with him and Stacia like stocks. He talks about them like he's day trading. We have great potential, earning potential, and now the algorithm getting this information, I have to recalculate and I have to, take in everything. Like maybe our stock is plummeting. Like this is how he is thinking about this relationship, as a calculated risk. And I'm not saying that that's good or bad. Actually, it's not good or bad. It is how he's using. It's the protection that he's using to be able to navigate this relationship. And so coming from that frame of reference, this is going to put him in a space where he's going to push back. He's going to pull back. And I feel like Stacia is going to potentially, after this episode, push him to say the L word even more. Now that she knows that he is saying it in his head but not saying it out loud, she's getting information from his friends that Nate has never said I love you. He's only said I love you to his family. They've never seen him in a committed relationship where he has said I love you. And Stacia also learns that Nate has this part of him that goes against the grain. His friend stated, hey, you can give Nate all the tools and he's going to throw those tools away and build his own tools and find his own way, which is very similar to like this day trading thing. Like there's a part of him that maybe didn't want to work in the conventional work, wants to discover his own, because there's a lack of trust. He saw that other people going that way, or he even went that way, and there was some hurt or disappointment there. And so he's like, hey, I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to do it my own way. And yes, it might take more time and it may be unconventional, but this is the way that I would like to do it. And so this is going to be a clash of the Titans in this relationship, because we also learn that when Nate is sitting with her friend and her cousin, that their advice to him in this area with the L word with Stacia, it's like they're preparing him for, hey, we know Stacia's not going to change. We know Stacia's going to keep pressing you to say this L word. So, hey, look at it this way. That's what they both said. Okay, so look at it this way. Don't look at it as she's trying to change you. Look at it as you get to see her for who she really is and get to know her. And don't look at it as this way, but look at it as like this is her love language and this is what she needs in order to see that, hey, he really cares about me. It's like, no, you're not speaking Nate's language. Nate said, oh, okay. And I could tell like this advice was hitting brick walls. It was like bouncing off of him, because he's like, no, I'm not going to look at it her way. I don't trust her. And then he also said that he doesn't trust himself enough to fully meet the expectations of a husband. This is all new for him. Commitment, long-term commitment. He's seen a failed marriage in his life. One of the few people that have been fully committed to him is his father. So this advice of, hey, look at it this way and do it Stacia way, because then you'll know. No, that's not working. That's not going to work for Nate. And so I hear them. They wanted to I hear them. They wanted to protect their friend. They wanted to protect their cousin. They wanted to look out for her, because the friend stated that, oh, if Stacia doesn't get the L word back, he's not going to get the best of Stacia. And so she's even experienced this demanding part of her, this demanding part of Stacia. And so her demanding part with his, I'm going to do it my way. I'm not going to do it the way that everybody else is doing it. I'm going to find my own way in doing it. And I don't care if it takes a long time. I don't care if I have to go around the mulberry bush and chase the weasel 5 times. I'm going to do it my way. We shall see how this works in the next coming episodes. But what I imagine to happen, is a explosion. That's what I imagine to happen, as an explosion as this unfolds as they get closer to decision day. Next, we have Miguel and Lindy. Miguel and Lindy say goodbye to their baby. Bye, McGindy. And they both go and do axe throwing. And we learn that Lindy is great. She's almost like a professional axe thrower. And Miguel, not so much. But he's willing to take a L, he said, because, hey, I can take a loss here because overall I'm winning. And I said, oh, Miguel is smitten. He is smitten. We're seeing now this like hopeless romantic part of him come out even more. He is also still listening to himself. So he's got a balance here. He's still listening to himself about the things that he's seeing that are concerning. Lindy's worst case scenario, what if foreshadowing part comes out again at the end of their outing, saying like, hey, we're doing great. Everything's working awesome. But, like, what if the worst happens, or what if an explosion happens? I mean, I don't know if it's going to happen, but what if? And Miguel's like, oh, I wish I could give you reassurance that I'm going to take everything you give me. But I mean, the reality is I'm not. And Lindy says like, oh, this feels like a threat. One thing about Lindy is that when she's calm, she does have some great language that she's using. She's like, how I'm taking that in is that that's a threat. Like, if I don't do everything that I need to do in order to make you happy, then you're going to leave. And he's like, well, that's not my intent. And at the same time, that's kind of true, because I do want us to work. I'm just not going to stay in a situation where we're both not happy. And he said, I'm willing to do the work. But if we continue to do the work and it's still not okay, we need to end it. We need to end it. And what I will say is this. I think that on the happy trail, marriage not always going to be happy, right? Because happy is fleeting. Marriage needs to be a safe space for two people. Marriage needs to be a safe space to connect with each other. That's the most important thing, because Lindy's happiness is actually her responsibility. Miguel's happiness is his responsibility. They are supposed to be a support for each other, supposed to connect with each other, supposed to, if something is coming up where it's bothering Miguel, then Lindy needs to work on it. If something is bothering Miguel or Lindy, that's something that they both need to talk about and work on. And as we see, when Miguel's meeting with Lindy's friend, talking about his concerns about how she can kind of really heighten herself and go to really big places for things that aren't that big. And her friend said like, yeah, I've seen that part of Lindy, and also this negativity thing as well. Him seeing this part of her that does, like, what if this happens? What if that happens? And oftentimes when I hear people say, oh, this person's negative. Oh, this person is always, oh, this person's always negative. They're always bringing negativity. That lets me know that they have some anxious parts. They have parts of them that are protecting themselves by being prepared for the worst case scenario. The intent is protection. The intent is, I want to make sure that I'm always prepared for whatever can happen. On the flip side of that, the impact of that is like, oh my goodness, like, why are we always talking about what's the worst thing that can happen? Why can't we just enjoy this moment? Why can't we just just enjoy these pictures of our month anniversary? Why do we have to talk about the bad things and the awkward moments that you experienced? Like, I had a great time. I thought we had a great kiss. Like, that's where Miguel is. And so this is Lindy's space where she has to grow in. We know this has been kind of a constant thing in their marriage. We didn't see where Lindy met with his friends. I would have liked to see that. One, because I really like Miguel's friends. They're very blunt and honest, kind of like Miguel. I know Miguel can sometimes come off as maybe mean or rude a little bit, and how direct he is with his words. He does have a part of him that is anxious as well. How he internalized that is he really leans heavily on his logical part. He leans very heavily on that. And our logical parts, and the parts of us that have big emotions and things that may not be rational, they clash. They clash within us. They clash when we interact and meet with each other. Oftentimes, of course, we utilize our logical part to kind of understand where other people are coming from, instead of from a validation place or compassion or understanding. We often meet with logic. And that's what causes the clash. And Miguel stated that he really wants Lindy to be able to handle herself, to be able to manage these anxieties, to be able to manage even these really big outbursts or feelings, so that she'll be able to be present for her, to be present for herself, to be present for their baby. Because that was also something that Miguel mentioned with their meeting with Pastor Cal. He said, hey, Lindy got really, overwhelmed. And I was the one who was doing most of the work because of that. And that's really what I felt was happening. They really didn't go into great detail about this last week, but I had a feeling that because Miguel was stepping up to the plate, that Lindy was getting frustrated. She was getting flustered because of the crying. And we also learned too at the after party that Miguel has this caretaker part of him. This part of him that is giving Lindy snacks and food oftentimes to manage her hangriness. And I'm like, where is Lindy's part of her that's taking care of herself? Where's her planner part? I'm really curious about that. Even in the meeting with Pastor Cal, Lindy had on this cute little hat, but it reminded me of like a little kid in a snowsuit, right? Where the snowsuit is so tight. I'm in Michigan, so the snowsuit is so tight that you can't put your arms down. Like that's kind of what she gave me, like very young vibes. And so she's often coming from a young place. I want to know more about her interactions with her parents, because it seems like that's where a lot of wounding happened for her. And that's how she's showing up in her relationships. That's how she's showing up in her connections. And what we're hearing is that Miguel is saying, this is something that I'm seeing as a pattern and we need to work on it. Pastor Cal did kind of a cool technique in their session where he said, okay, has Miguel seen you at your worst? And at first I was like, why are we bringing this up? Why are we bringing this up? But I was like, okay, Alicia, all right, I see where he's going. And so Lindy said, no. But he said, okay, so from a scale of 1 to 10, what's the biggest outburst that Miguel's seen? She said, well, he's seen about 4.5. And Miguel's like, oh my goodness, that was just a 4.5. Okay. And then Pastor Cal said, well, how often are you at a 10? And she was like, maybe twice in my life. And so that kind of helped to give a realistic picture. And at the same time, even going a little deeper. How often are you at a 6 or a 7? How often do you get to an 8? So that Miguel can get a clearer picture. Because Pastor Cal is right. Miguel's going to have to determine if he's okay with who Lindy is. And he had some questions in his eyes. And rightfully so. This is a unique process. And she talked about the part of her that's like, oh, this foreshadowing or forecasting doom in our relationship. Is this negativity you're talking about, Miguel? And he said, yes, this is a part of it. And she said, oh, that's just so ingrained in who I am. This is a part of me. And I don't even recognize it when it's happening. And I said, ooh, you just gave me great material to work with, Lindy, saying that. Because it is a part of her that she's using to protect herself. As she becomes more aware of it, she'll be able to even feel its energy when it comes on and be able to build a relationship with this part to soften it back. She has to be able to have confidence and trust herself enough to manage her emotions. What's happening is because a lot of the wounding that she's experienced was at a young age, she still feels that she's there at that young age and doesn't trust herself to be able to manage her feelings or take care of herself or give herself the food that she needs in order to not be hangry. Lindy has some true inner healing work to do. And I hope that she's up for it because this relationship could really be great. Could really be great for the both of them. But the question that Pastor Cal asked, would you be able to live with her, Norm? That's a valid question. That's a very valid question. And that's the question that both of them are going to have to answer for themselves very shortly. Next, we have Justin and Alexis. Justin is meeting with Will, Alexis's friend, and Justin talked about his decision to let Maya go because he wanted to keep Alexis safe and wanted her to feel safe in their home. And how he is working on himself, right? Like he's working on his temperament. He says sometimes he says things and he doesn't want to cuss at his wife. And he doesn't also want, if they do have children, which I don't think that they are going to have children, but if they do have children, that he wants to not be able to argue in front of them. He wants to be able to handle conflict in a healthy way going forward. And Will is a cool guy. Will, I get cool vibes from him. He stated that, hey, I could not imagine getting married at first sight like the way you did, and doing that, it makes the bad things worse. And he's absolutely right. That's referring back to even Stacia and Nate. Like, that whole cheating 10 years ago, yes, it happened 10 years ago. But now it's like, because we're in this pressure cooker situation, it's like you throw one bad ingredient in and just like, it takes over the whole dish and it's a wrap. And so because this whole dog biting situation and all these other things that are happening in their relationship that are not being said or not being addressed, because Alexis isn't really being truthful and honest with him, it's making their relationship blow up. It's making it combustible. Now, this is where Will and I have some maybe mixed opinions. Will stated that Alexis really wants to be in this relationship and that Justin is the kind of guy that Alexis has been wanting. She's just afraid. Well, I'll say in part. I believe that the characteristics that Justin has, she wants, and at the same time, there's a part of her that doesn't want it. There's a part of her that wants the gentle, soft nature that Justin has, but she also wants the guy who has like this harder exterior, this tougher exterior. And that's not Justin. Justin is a marshmallow. He is. He's a teddy bear, and he does not even back down from that. He stands like 10 toes down. I'm a teddy bear. And I don't think that Alexis wants that. I don't think that she wants that, and I don't think that she's being honest with Justin or even herself about that. Justin stated that, hey, if she's in, then I'm in. I'm all in. But I'm afraid. I'm scared that she's going to leave. He said that there have been so many women that have quit on him. And we're even going to go back to even his father, right? Who he kept trying to prove himself, right, worthy of his love. And this behavior keeps repeating in his relationships. Justin has some internal work to do as well to take care of little Justin, the part of him that believes that he has to please other people to keep them in his life. Oh, he needs to take care of himself. Because oftentimes what happens is the parts of us that we used to protect, because oftentimes they're trying to avoid situations that they create. Right? So people pleasing, for an example, if you have a part of you that people pleases, you do everything that the person wants. You do everything to keep them happy. And then at the same time, internally, there's this disruption. There's this voice that's like, people don't want me because of me. They only want me because of what I do for them. And so it's like, it's a rejection. It happens indirectly. They meet with Devon Franklin, and he talks about the club situation. He said, Alexis, what are you getting from the club? And she's like, I feel free. And he said, okay. And so he removed the club as the issue. And really, the issue is that Alexis feels smothered and repressed in her relationship with Justin. Now, what was missing from this session was going deeper to say, Alexis, what is it about this relationship that's making you feel repressed and smothered? Would Alexis be brave enough to say, because I don't want to be in this relationship? That's what's making me feel repressed and smothered, because I feel like I have to take care of Justin's emotions and teach him how to communicate. That's why I feel repressed and smothered, because I'm not attracted to Justin. That's why I feel repressed and smothered, because I'm not sexually attracted to Justin. That's why I feel repressed and smothered. And this is where Alexis has these parts of her that will present one way. And then we see it even in the session. She's talking about the things that she would like to do, the activities that she would like to do that would bring her more freedom, right? The sense of freedom. And that Justin likes to do those things. And then you see this like smirk on her face, and she's looking down, because that's holding. I wanted him to say, hey, what was that? What was that? Alexis, I saw you do something there. What was that smile about? Tell me about that. Nonverbal communication lets you know that there's a part that's being silenced. And So that part needs to have its say, because it's having its say in her body language all the time. It's what Justin's picking up all the time. And she tries to tell him, you're not seeing anything. Justin, why do you think that way? Why would you say that? Listen to what I'm telling you. Listen to what I'm telling you. Yes, my body is telling you a completely different thing. Even as they're going into the sex conversation, she wants him to be this dominant person, even though her body, her signals are telling him she doesn't want you. She's not attracted to you. She doesn't want to have sex with you. This is the bigger issue. This is the bigger issue that's not being addressed in this session. And so then Justin is leaving this session feeling like, oh, I'm controlling. I'm trying to control my wife. I didn't know I was that guy. Justin's leaving the session with the impact of his behavior, right? Alexis feels like Justin's trying to control her. What's the intent? The intent is he's trying to protect himself because he doesn't truly feel like she wants him. We know this from the last session when Justin had his say. He doesn't feel wanted or that she's attracted to him and that she doesn't want to be in a relationship. It's clear. And so he's looking for it. There's parts of him like, okay, I see you. Anytime that you have free time, you want to be with your friends. You don't want to be with me. It's less about the club. Divine was right with that. But we got to go deeper into why is she repressed? Why is she looking for freedom? When really, Justin is the one that needs to cue Fantasia and say, if you don't want me, then don't talk to me. Go ahead and free yourself. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for freedom from me because you don't want me. And Alexis is not being honest with herself. She's not. And I'm curious about the part of her that is holding on to this relationship. Is she holding on to it because she has been a runner? She wants to prove to herself that she's not a runner? Is that what it is? That feels right to me, that she wants to prove to herself that she's not a runner. That's why she's trying to stick and stay with Justin, even though she doesn't want to be there. She doesn't. And I'm curious as to if Alexis met with Justin's friends, as we didn't see that. I'm also curious as to why Alexis tends to insert herself in other people's relationships. We saw it with Binh and Morgan. We saw it in this episode with Kristen and Mitch. And that's a great segue. Let's go there. Next we have Kristen and Mitch. Kristen and Mitch. I have such a greater understanding of Mitch, but we'll get into it. All right, let's go. Kristen is meeting with her sister-in-law, and I said, oh, this is a good person for Kristen to meet with, because I remember his sister-in-law saying, hey, me and Mitch did not vibe at all. And we had to work to find our way in order to find the relationship that we have today. And so Kristen is talking about how Mitch's contrariness is it's becoming a stick in the mud for her. Like, how do you deal with this? How do you deal with this part of him that just is like, once I want to do it my way. I want to go my way. Oh, everybody's doing that? No, I want to do it the way I want to do it. And Mitch's sister-in-law stated that Mitch has a difficult time with taking a beat to really understand how his words impact other people. And that's still, we see this is still an area of growth for Mitch. He says things exactly how they are in his brain. There's no filter. There's no like, okay, how does this need to come out for other people to receive it? That's not there. That's not there for Mitch. It just comes out. She also stated that he's going to have to understand that making people feel bad isn't a way to get them to change. And I said, ooh, he's looking for control. And we'll go into that a little deeper later. Mitch's sister-in-law also stated that, yes, compromise is great, right? But don't compromise yourself to the point where you're not happy. Like, both of you need to be happy. And if you're focusing only on Mitch's happiness, then you're not going to be happy. Well, Kristen knows that. She knows that because that was the first 4 weeks of their marriage. And she had a moment, she had enough, she had a breaking point, and it's continuing to boil as we see as the episode moves on. But she stated that, hey, if something is an issue for you, say it. Say it. And Kristen said that at the after party that one thing I learned about myself is that avoiding conflict creates more conflict. Yes. Licensed therapist here. I approve that message. Avoiding conflict creates more conflict. It creates an environment for more offense to happen because it wasn't addressed. So the person is off frolicking in the land of happiness, thinking that you're okay with what they're doing, and they're not. And you're not. And you're continuously being offended while they're frolicking, happy. And this anger builds up. This anger builds up in the relationship. And this is the breeding ground for more conflict. They meet with Dr. Pepper, and she asked, what are the questions you need answered in order to make your decision for decision day? And Kristen said, I have lots of questions. Where you want to start? She said, okay, one at a time. And she said, I know that Mitch is an advocate for the environment. An advocate is an understatement, but an advocate for the environment. And at the same time, I want my iced lattes. I want to have my iced lattes without guilt. And he said, well, I noticed that you do like iced lattes, and it's not going to make or break our marriage if you don't use your reusable cup. But if you really made the effort to do that, that would really let me know that, you are taking the effort to appreciate the things that are important to me and make me feel proud to have you by my side. I don't know if Dr. Pepper went into what that means for him, but I would have definitely stayed in that area there, because those words meant a lot of things. But Dr. Pepper asked about any bigger things, any bigger concerns or things that she wants to do with her life that she feels will be a concern for Mitch. It sounds like she was trying to get at the house flipping thing, which Kristen did bring up, saying like this was kind of unresolved. And Mitch said, hey, I am not a capitalist. I'm not a fan of that. I do think about what that industry, flipping houses, what it does to the greater world. And I mean, he's right. It does impact the economy. It does impact people's ability. It does impact working families' ability to obtain housing. And so Dr. Pepper was like, hey, is that Kristen's responsibility? Is that all on her? And he's like, no, I get it. I understand. I know. I get where you're going. He said, but I'm the dark side guy. I'm going to remind you of the consequences of your actions. That's just who I am. Are you going to be able to deal with this? Because that's who I am. He's saying I'm not going to change. This is where this is coming from with Mitch. Okay. The contrariness, the not willing to bend, that I'm going to do it. I'm going to do what I want to do. Here it is. As a little boy, Mitch did not get to have a say on whether his parents got a divorce. He didn't get to have a say. And so there's a part of him that's saying, I'm going to have my say. That's when that little rebel part was born, right? I'm going to have my say. I'm going to do what I want to do. Nobody's going to make a decision for me. He did not like that decision, nor did he agree with that decision. And also, that decision caused him great hurt, great despair. Living away from mom and living away from dad, having to go from house to house, that caused him distress. And he doesn't want anybody to forget that distress, right? So that's where this dark side part, as he calls it, comes from. You're not going to make decisions that hurt people and not think about the people that you hurt, because he's seeing those working families. He's seeing those working families who can't afford housing because of people who flip houses. He's seeing himself in those people. The hurt that was caused by his parents' divorce, the dark side of that. He wants everyone to know the dark side, to validate his pain, to validate his experience, to protect the little boy inside of him. And at the same time, that's a very heavy responsibility for Krysten. It's a very heavy responsibility. And that's not her responsibility to protect that little boy. It's not. It's Mitch's responsibility to protect that little boy, to look out for him. And this is couples therapy. This is digging into that, right? This is the work. And I don't know if Married at First Sight is really willing to do the work, right? Pastor Cal came out at the end of the pool party, which we'll get to in a minute, and came out and he was upset. Like there was this like father part that came out and said, all of you said you wanted to get married, and all of you said that you're going to do the work, and look at you. This is it. This is when you do the work. Yes, Pastor Cal, but are you guys willing to do the work? Are you guys willing to do the work to really get to know these people's systems, to know that all of their parts of them that they're using to protect themselves? Mitch is a hurting little boy in a marriage. And the expectation of this little boy, whether he knows it or not, whether he's aware of it and it's mostly, unfortunately, it's happening subconsciously, right? These are subconscious protectors that we have, and we don't become aware of them until we are married and we get to see these parts of us. And Devon Franklin was very accurate. He said, marriage is a mirror. It's the clearest mirror you'll ever see of yourself. This is when you get to see your true colors will be shining through, because you're getting to see all of your parts, all of the parts of you. Your partner is engaging with these parts because you're protecting yourself. You're protecting yourself because it's a vulnerable space. Marriage and relationships is a vulnerable space. And so Mitch is learning parts of him that he didn't know. And these are very young parts. This is a boy who did not want his life to change. And so this is where the rigidity comes from. This is where the contrariness that Kristen is talking about comes from. This is the dark side part. These are protectors that Mitch has because he does not want anyone to forget that little boy. He wants people to see him. Don't purchase that iced latte in that plastic cup without thinking about what that's going to do to the environment, to the beaches, to the animals, what that's going to do to the planet. You have to think about that. You have to think about me. You have to think about how your decisions are impacting me, mom, dad. That is what he's saying. That is what he's saying. And that is what I would have liked Dr. Pepper to dig into, instead of telling Krysten that, hey, the guy who doesn't have contrary parts, he didn't come yet. So, we all want a perfect guy, but you have Mitch. And are you going to make it work? No, this isn't couples counseling. That's not couples counseling. That's not intervention. And so they leave with that issue unresolved. Just like Justin and Alexis, their deeper issue was not resolved. And Krysten is left feeling great, right? Feeling like, we have problem solved this. You've problem solved this. And I thought living with you is going to be extreme, and it's not. And Mitch said, oh no, it can get a little bit more extreme. I've been kind of blasé about some of these things because we're in a shared apartment, but I don't use paper towels. I don't do this. And she's like, oh boy. And we learn that Mitch is a slurper. He makes a lot of noises when he eats, or these noodles specifically. And I'm glad Krysten finally said something, because, oh my goodness, that was becoming a bit much for me. But Krysten stated that, hey, as long as you're helping me wash the towels, I don't want to be the only person washing the towels. That's the issue. And so here is when Mitch throws hot peppers in a boiling pot, because he has concerns about Krysten's makeup. He wants her to not wear makeup. He likes her natural. He likes her beauty, right? And he wants to talk about it. The unfortunate part, because Mitch has been rejected by his peers, we learned that a few episodes ago, it seems like he doesn't have a lot of social pro-social skills, doesn't know how to navigate the nuance of communication, what to say, what not to say, who not to say it to, all these things. And he broke like every rule in this situation by telling his sister-in-law that he does not want Krysten to wear makeup. And how do I talk to her about this? Well, Krysten's sister-in-law was already kind of not warm and fuzzy because of the situation that happened in the honeymoon. So she was already in a space of like, hello. You can kind of see it in her body language, even on camera, even through a video call, you can kind of see it. And after he asked that, I said, oh no, he has lit a match. And he did not know the match he lit, because Krysten's sister then tells Mitch. And what it also looks like from how it came out is that Krysten definitely talked to Alexis and some of the other girls about it. And Alexis decides to bring it up at the pool party. Thank you, Alexis. And so while Krysten's working through her feelings, she now has an audience, right? Where Mitch doesn't know what has been shared and who knows what. He's caught off guard. And Krysten is so upset. She's so upset. And this is handled in a public forum. And the experts come in and Dr. Pepper addresses this in a public forum. This needed to be addressed between Dr. Pepper, Mitch, and Krysten by themselves, not with everyone, because this leads to further embarrassment. The podcaster they had on the after party, she gave great advice on how to navigate this. Hey, at night, when you see Krysten in her natural state, you say, oh my goodness, you look so beautiful. You look so beautiful. Especially because he made an error early on in their marriage about how she presents herself. And he has these parts of him, and he has these parts of him that are demanding that Krysten make some changes, some big changes in her life to meet his needs of feeling seen. Okay, that's all that's about. And so with all of this breeding ground, and then adding those peppers into that boiling fire, it just exploded in front of everyone. And Mitch is like, I didn't know what was happening, because he is so aloof. He is so aloof as to how what he did was not okay. And now he's understanding it, and now he's like, did I just ruin my marriage? Did I just ruin my marriage? I don't know. Mitch has a lot of work to do. And I hope that he takes the time to do the work that he needs to do. I really do. So please let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts about Nate and Stacia. How is this going to meet this rebel part of him that wants to find his own way and do it his way, and her demanding part? How are they going to battle it out? How are they going to work it out? Let me know your thoughts about Alexis and Justin. Some of you have. Let me know your thoughts about Alexis and Justin. Some of you have been very blunt about how you feel, and I understand. I understand all of it, and I'm here for all of it. Let me know your thoughts about Kristen and Mitch. This is a woman's appearance and the parts of him that are controlling. It's a lot for her to manage. She is tired. She is frustrated. She's like, why am I doing all this work? Not realizing that he's really just wanting to be seen. He's wanting his pain of his life changing, the dark side that he had to experience. He wants that to be seen. He doesn't know that. I don't think he does. And that's what's brewing. That's what's making this such an issue. Miguel and Lindy. Does Miguel have the staying power? Will Lindy be able to do the work so that she can take care of herself? So she can trust herself. She can trust herself to be able to take care of herself. Let me know your thoughts. If you are still here, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and as always, be cool, be calm, be centered. Peace.